Hi, and welcome to Abundance Rising Family. This is Sana, and here we are 1 week into purchasing Heidi, our Guernsey. Let's take a look at the transitions, the challenges, and just how it's working out. Heidi has transitioned very, very well here. She's still timid, she still has trust issues, but she walks into the stanchion, she eats her grain, and she does allow us to milk her out. We've had our challenges with her, but overall, she has been a fantastic addition to the farm. Zinnia here hasn't had a calf yet, so she's not in milk. She's due in November. She was born and raised here, and I cannot wait to get to milking her. Mac and Annabelle have been brought over to this pasture because there's a whole lot of grazing grass over there, and those two can be moved with a feed pail. So I can get them to move back and forth wherever I need them with just a little bit of grain. The other two, I don't quite trust to follow me. Heidi still spooks, and Zinnia just really doesn't need all of that green grazing grass right now. These two need the extra protein to continue to make milk. So we move them over here, and then during milking time, when we open that gate, they know to walk across the driveway and over to the stanchion. Now that I've got a pile of feed right there on the stanchion, Micah's gonna let her out. All right, bud, let's go. Mac always comes first. She knows exactly what she's supposed to do. Cows are creatures of habit. They like their routine, they like their patterns. They definitely don't like change. Right on in. I close the head gate, and she's ready to be milked. So with Mac in particular, we still choose to hand milk her. It's just easier. So we get her in the stanchion, we get her all nice and washed up and clean and sterile. And then the first few squirts go into a bucket for the cats just to flush out her teats and make sure there's no bacteria. And then we'll just spend the next couple of minutes just milking her out by hand.
I bet that kind of stuff will hit.
So clearly I struggle to milk the cow and hold the camera because my first couple of squirts just got all over the outside. Luckily, the milk inside is still plenty clean. Mac gives us an average of about 1.5 gallons of milk right now, but she is almost 2 years into lactation, so she is actually producing very, very well, considering that naturally she would have been dried off about a year ago. We got Mac bred to a limousine bull, so she is expected to give us a calf this coming December. The flies are worse this year than we have ever seen. I don't know if it's the rain, the humidity, or what. So we are now in the habit of covering our milk just to make sure that we keep it nice and sterile. Now it's time to put Mac back in her original pasture, and we'll bring in Annabelle. Crazy Annabelle. She's been here about 6 weeks now, has settled in perfectly. She has been an amazing addition to our farm. Her milk is so sweet and delicious. Now Annabelle only knows how to come when called. The dairy had an interesting way of calling in their cows at the end of the day. So Annabelle will come through. She's gonna try to stop for a snack. She always does. You gotta go on through, girl. Locking in the head gate. Tying up the back. She learned really quick that side step. All of the cows figure out that we need her as close to my board as possible. And so when you start to pull on that rope, they just immediately step over. Heidi is still learning that, but she's really close. So to date, Annabelle is still the most difficult cow that we milk. Heidi's teats are significantly easier to milk, and Mac, as I've shared, is just a really convenient cow to milk. We do still machine milk Annabelle, and it works out really well. Coming from a dairy, that's what she was used to anyway. So let's get this machine kicked on and get it going. We gotta wait for it to come to pressure. When you hear that noise, you know that it's getting there. And then, of course, the pressure gauge is supposed to dance between 10 and 15. You hear that? That's how you know it's ready. Now, because I modified it to have such long tubes, I usually rest them on my foot just to keep them up off the ground. One day I'm sure I'll come with a better system, but the way she dances with that foot down there, the last thing we want is her stepping on these tubes and yanking them off of her. She's always dancing in the stanchion, this one. And just like that, the milk is flowing. All right, I'm checking each line. There's no more milk flowing right here. So we're gonna go ahead and pull it off and put the plug in so that the rest of her can keep getting milked out. I'm gonna check this line. If you pull down gently, her body tends to release just a little bit more milk. That one is still absolutely letting out more milk, so I'm going to check this line. Luckily, with clear tubes, it's easy to see if milk is still flowing. With Annabelle, that front teat is usually the first one to finish. This back one looks like it's about done. Now a calf will bump and a calf will pull. If we mimic that and if we do the same thing, sometimes she'll have another letdown. Checking each line. What we don't want is for her to be on the milk machine if her bag has run completely dry. That can cause damage in the long run. This front one here appears to be done. So we're going to go ahead and pull that one off and put in the plug. Break the seal with my finger. Pull it off. Put the cap in. The machine repressurizes and continues to milk. Annabelle doesn't mind this one bit. And we just go back to checking the lines. We will repeat this with the last two until she's completely milked out. Alright, we took off all 4 inflations from the milk machine. There is the cat bowl underneath. Yes, it's filthy. Don't worry, nothing eats out of that except the cats. Now, once you're done with the milk machine, it's still important to go back and check each teat and make sure that it is all the way empty. This is called stripping. And we will check each individual teat to make sure that nothing important got left behind. The more milk you remove, the more milk her body will make. And it seems the machine did a really good job today. All right, Annabelle is all milked out. She is stripped and she is ready to go into her pasture. Let's go ahead and send her back.
Just kidding.
For the evening, she'll be back in her original pasture with all of the cows. We only move them in the morning so they can spend the day grazing, and then they come back here to hang out with their friends for the night. Release her head gate, and off she'll go. Now this is a farm, and as you will see, there are flies. And there is manure, and there is mess, and there are stains, and there is dirt. Anything that the milk comes into contact with is very, very sterile and clean. Everything else, not so much. There's really only so much we can do. We clean our facility quite often. We sterilize our milking equipment twice a day, every day, no matter what. So rest assured that anything that our milk is coming into contact with stays very, very clean. Anything that's going to be fed to the animals, we're not quite so worried about it. Their bodies are adjusted and they're used to this, and they really can handle it okay.
Okay, you're being recorded.
All right. In order to keep our milk sterile, we bring out a sterile bucket, and after we are done with Annabelle, we release the, what is that called? It's not pressure.
Suction.
We release the suction so that we can get this lid off. Keep that up off the floor, because you never know when a kid is just going to turn on the vacuum pump. Take off the lid, turn it upside down so nothing dirty comes into contact with it. This gets poured into the sterile milking bucket. Put the lid back on before anything dirty comes into contact with it. Now, my wonderful son has volunteered to take this milk in the house where it can stay nice and clean before we milk Heidi. Now, we've run into a few complications with Heidi. She ended up developing a bout of mastitis, which is not unheard of after the stress of traveling. So we have been treating her for her mastitis using mostly natural methods. One quarter is just having a really hard time recovering, so we went ahead and put some antibiotics in it this morning. So we will not be keeping her milk. So I am going to go ahead and use the milk machine on her, but that milk will be going out to the pigs. We will not be consuming her milk until I know that all of the antibiotics are out of her system. But this was a necessary step. She's new, her body's been through a lot, and we need to make sure that she's all the way healthy, and then it'll be a whole lot easier to keep her that way. Hey, Heidi. You standing there ready for your milking session? Let's get some food in the stanchion and get you brought up. Heidi still requires us to go out to the pasture to get her. But if you just walk slowly behind her, she'll meander her way up here and ride on into the stanchion. Heidi's still a little timid and a little scared. She does not like change in her routine at all. She doesn't like new people out here with her. She doesn't like it if we milk in the wrong order. She's very particular right now. She'll get there. She's getting easier and easier by the day. Heidi had a messy day. We're going to get her washed up and ready to go. Okay. Now, what we discovered with the milk machine is that we had to get really small inflations for Annabelle. And I really thought that it would have been okay for her as well. But she actually started to develop a sore on her teat from the inflation. So her back teats are a good size for the small inflations that we use, but her front teats are just a little bit too big. So for now, we put the milk machine on her back, but we hand milk the front. All right, so we got the milk machine turned on. This time I'm only using 2 inflations and they'll be going on the back. I just turned the pump on. I'm waiting for it to come to pressure. Back teat number 1. Back teat number 2. Now, the day we brought her home, she was kicking violently to get these off. In 2 weeks, she has become quite comfortable with us. Now, her teats are actually nice and clean. These are just some sores that we're working on letting heal. Hand milking does not seem to bother these at all. I quit using the machine because, well, we just don't want to damage her. So while the back teats are getting milked out, I'm going to go ahead and come in here and milk the front teats into a bucket. All of this milk will be getting served to the pigs. So on our farm, we are able to turn raw milk into bacon. Heidi is significantly easier to milk. Heidi is 3 years old. She had her first calf right before we bought her. So essentially, she had a little bit of training before coming here. And then when we got her, we carried on with her training. And she calved 3 weeks ago, and she's already fairly confident in the stanchion and very easy to milk. She just still has some trust issues. We're working through it. And just like that, it's dark out here. Now you guys can't really see anything that we're doing. But she is still fighting mastitis in that 1/4. So I actually went and made a concoction of coconut oil with some essential oils. I used oregano, peppermint, and frankincense. I'll mix it all together. I will slather it all over her bag, and by morning, her mastitis will be significantly better. I find that essential oils work far better than antibiotics do when it comes to a light case of mastitis. All right. Now we're just going to let her back into her pasture for the night. We'll come back out in the morning, milk her out again. We still will not be keeping that milk. The pigs don't mind getting a treat for a little while, and we will wait to consume the milk when we know that it's all the way healthy. All right, we opened up the back. I'm going to undo her head gate. Nice and dark. She'll be ready to go in for the night and get some rest. Sorry about the poor lighting. I can only milk when I can milk. And that really doesn't help much. Good night, Heidi.